good morning. This is a reflection on lesson 277 in A Course in Miracles, and it says, "Let me not bind your son to law with laws I made. Let me not bind your son with laws I made." Well, this is talking to God, so your son is us humans. That's what it means. I have a hair on my. Let me not bind your son, meaning let me not assume those laws I made means my assumptions of how the world should work, my rules for living, my rules about how I move through the world. Let me not bind or restrict myself or anyone else with my opinions and ideas and restrictions and assumptions and expectations, limitations. Let me not apply any rules of my own making to how anyone else and myself should live in this world and move through the world and treat myself and treat others. So that's what this lesson meant to me. Let me not bind us humans, myself and others, with any restrictions that I made up. And so I've been practicing that a lot lately, especially with asking myself, when I have a thought, is that even true? Do I really believe that? When it's asking the question of, wait a minute, is that even true? Why is that an assumption I'm making? Does that even ring true for me anymore? More often than not, no, it doesn't. And then I can let it go. It's the question versus a statement helps me evaluate, really call into question, does that rule even serve me anymore? Do I want to apply that rule to anyone else? Do I want to bind them or my perception of them into this little box? And it says that it does so out of safety. So it says, don't let us do that anymore from a sense of fear or safety. Because all the ways we it's really a mechanism of control. So how we control, how we perceive to be controlling our surroundings, our world with I'm going to put this in a little box. I'm going to wrap this up with these handcuffs and this twine and this binding things in place. Don't move. I think I understand you just as you are there, so don't ever move, don't change. And then that allows me to feel safe. So that's how I took this lesson. But then it took me to the place because it talked a lot about the body, which I know it means the way the Bible talks about the body. And it's we're all members of this body. But anyway, because he said the word body and I'm a body worker, it made me think about the ways that I'm going through this practice, especially lately, of the way I quiet my mind into what's next? What little practice am I going to work on next to keep unbinding, to keep letting go, surrendering? Oh, I love van life. So what am I but it keeps me in my mind a little. He has noise cancellation on, so I don't have to feel as self-conscious, but he looked at me. So this might be the first time you ever got to see my little sidekick on one of these videos. Lesson 277. Let it be known he exists. So anyway, that's I was going into the body part of it. So the practice I've been doing that helps me stop trying to figure things out, because that's a form of attachment. It's a form of doership and also control. I know where I'm going and I know I can control this process if I just keep thinking about what to do and then do it. It's very subtle. Like, it all feels very positive. And like I mentioned in one of my videos recently, like even that desire to keep with the positive, to keep, even though I know when I love going through the heavy stuff, it's always because I know that good feeling's just on the other side, and it doesn't take long. And I still trust that, of course. It's always the way it works out. But so I'm willing to go through the hard stuff, not a problem at all anymore. Yet knowing all of that is still a thought, and it's still an attachment to getting to the good stuff. So anyway, I'm trying to let that go too by not trying. So anyway, I've been doing this practice where I will feel a place, I like go into the body sensations. It's funny how all of these practices, I'm listening to this audiobook, you may have heard of it. It's called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I actually rented it from Libby. I guess you can just check out books for free, and somebody clued me into that on my last road trip. So I'm like, ooh, I'll get Matt and I a book to do together. And it's called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And you're like, duh, that's only like the most well-known book in the universe for the past 25 years. Well, I never read it. So I'm like, I'll get it for both of us. And here I've gone through like the somatic experiencing training, where it's like a very scientific based, like research based process, but it's all of the things, not just science, but it's based in science, about doing this process of tapping in, like tracking your sensations and continually like going into them, letting go. It's a whole thing to not describe in this video, but anyway. And here in this book, Eckhart Tolle is describing the exact same process. And it's like, it's funny how when things start to bubble up into our cultural awareness, that everybody comes at it from different angles, but it's all the same fundamental stuff. Also known as, like, everything is like that. Religion is like that. It all points to the same foundational, like, truths. So it's just fun. That's something else I noticed yesterday. So it's on topic because it's about doing that. I was already doing it with myself, and it's my practice now is not just following and tracking the sensation and seeing how it's shifting and changing, but also like just saying, where else can I soften? Where else can I let the tension dissolve? And it's not just about getting somewhere. It's just like, oh, what's on the other side of this emotion? Because it does always change your sensation. It does always change into something else. And then there's a dissipation. And even more so now, I'm practicing, where else am I holding without realizing I'm holding? I mentioned the other day, like my death grip on my coffee mug. It still happens, but I'm able to like notice it quicker and quicker, and then let that go, and then something else will emerge into my awareness of like, oh, and now this other place feels tense. Let me let go of that. And it reminds me of what I've mentioned before with body work, where we work on, like, the body's like an onion. Everything's an onion. In the same way that you work on one layer, and then you're able to get to the deeper layers. Like, you peel back the first layer and you're like, oh my god, there's another layer in this onion. Let's undress that layer, peel it back. Well, the body's like that too. It's like, what is most pressing in our awareness? What's the biggest pain we have? Yesterday I had this headache forming near the end of our like 15-hour road trip. It was like, because we took turns all day long. And so I'm sure by the end of the day it was like plus we didn't get much sleep the night before. Whatever the reason was, it was just starting to amp up. And so I'm like, let me practice it with a headache too, not just body tension, but like whatever that was. And sure enough, it was gone. No Excedrin or ibuprofen needed. I know not all headaches are created equal, but that one may seem to work for it. And then I was able to notice somewhere else showing up. But with that headache there was nothing else going on. That was the most important thing. And instead of trying to ignore it, trying to suppress it, whatever. I went into it, that onion layer peeled back, and then I was able to drop into another layer that was like a more subtle layer. So the deeper we go in the onion, it feels like it gets more and more subtle. And I feel like that's true with a real onion. Like the outer layers have sort of like hardened a bit or dried out a bit because they're like more tense. There's like, oh, they're a little crustier to peel back. And then as you get deeper, they're more supple, they're more juicy. There's more like nuance to the scent, of the onion. And like they're just different in that way. And they're like, oh, I'm down here, I'm waiting, I'll be here when you get to me. So this lesson was really a reminder that I can't see the whole path ahead. No matter how much this brain, going back to the beginning of what I was saying about what's the next thing, where am I going, where does this lead to, I'll never know with my brains. All I know is an intuitive going into the next thing, an intuitive peeling back whatever is showing up in my awareness. What I can trust is my awareness. I can trust that whatever's right here, right now, is the only thing that I need to concern myself with. And that keeps me in the present moment, because everything else about what's next is a thought. Or where did I go? What worked last time? What was that? That's the past isn't real either, but that was the then. That was the now. Then we call past. And what worked then, we're not working on the same onion layer, obviously. We've already peeled it back. You'll never be able to put the onion back together in the same configuration with the same textures, right? So there's no redoing. There's no sense of a true redo, a true repeat. You're always working on a different layer. It just may have similar notes, similar scent notes of something from before. And you're like, because I've tried things that worked in the past, and I'm like, well, now they're just not working. We're on a different map, like I talked about the other day. Let's dig out the new map. Throw away that old map. Throw away that stanky old onion. So anyway, that's what this lesson, again, don't even remember the title. That's what it reminds me of. Like, let me not bind myself to my old rules, to those old maps. They're no longer relevant. I can trust that going into what's right here, right now, I've had to develop that trust within myself to know time and time again, the only thing that does work is trusting that what's here, right now, in this present moment is the only thing that matters. It's the only thing we have. It's the doorway in. I think the name I can't pronounce, Thich Nhat Hanh. I can't ever say his name. He's like a monk, I guess, who said, and I have this as a phrase in my studio because it's a good reminder to me, the present moment is the only thing we have, and it's the doorway to all other moments. So it's like, I can trust that what's showing up in my awareness right now, a pain, a sensation, an emotion, even a thought, what's here right now is the doorway in. It's the layer of the onion that wants to be peeled back so that the other things can come to the surface of my awareness. And then that's the next thing, and then that's the next thing. I don't have to think about what's coming next. That keeps me dissociated from the present moment to address what's really here, which will really get me to what's next. That feels to me so basic, and it's something I've conceptually always known. And yet, until I've gone over and over into this somatic practice of, okay, now where can I let go? Where can I soften? Where can I soften? Where can I soften? That so many things are actually in my, like, experientially, not just conceptually, starting to really take hold or take root. That's the trust. The trust comes through practice. The practice may only begin with this intuitive whispering before the trust is even there, right? So trust your intuitive whisperings. I wish I had experientially come to this much sooner. It's been a couple years. Yeah, a couple years of doing this, few and far between. And the more I do it more regularly, it's like everything's getting more subtle. Those layers of the onion, those subtle scents, things are getting very subtle. There's a subtleness to, like, there's not those big explosive releases anymore. They may still come, like I talked about before, like the ball bouncing. I may still get some big ball bounces, but things are so subtle now that I know that no amount of thinking about what's next, that's still part of the problem. So yesterday what came to me was a question of, like, well, if not that, like, the doer in me is slowly dying, as it should. If I want to finally use that word should, as I've always wanted it to. It's finally dying. A very peaceful, slow, subtle death, which is amazing because I've always been extreme, like big things. So of course the beauty of my experience is that of course it would be subtle. And then I'm like, okay, I'm kind of appreciating finally that that's happening. Letting go, softening I can't control a damn thing, right? That's basically what this boils down to. I never thought I was a control freak. That's how subtle, that's how sneaky my ego is. So now it's, things are so subtle that I'm like, there's really nothing to do here except always question. My question is just a question. What's here, right now? And the words that came to me, like, so I think I heard it on a podcast. Somebody was pointing somebody else to, like, they were helping them with their own awakening process. So they were very self-realized themselves. They were like a very clear vessel for that, so they could be a clear pointer. And this particular woman had a way of very direct pointing, no beating around the bush, no analogies, matter of fact, which I've seen all the styles and I love all the styles for what they offer. Hers was very good for just like, what do you really want? What is driving you right now? What is your biggest desire right now? And what came to me was the words full, because I asked myself that. So took a break from the podcast and said, well, I'm going to ask myself that. What do I want right now? The word, it was immediate. The words were full immersion. Full immersion. That's what I've always wanted. I've always held back from life. I've always energetically had a wall between me and experience, to the point where I was always running toward the experience to break through that wall. It was so extremist. So I'm like, all I've ever wanted was full immersion in life. Can you hear me? He looked at me and winked. And he said he couldn't hear me. And he's jamming out like this. And he plays air piano, which is so cute. So anyway, the rawness, the full immersion, the full expression of myself, even my ego self, my personality self, I've just always wanted that. And it's like, oh, I had to name it. And then it started showing up immediately, like, go into the thing. Because certain practices, even though conceptually I was there, energetically, there was still me, it was still me and not me. I just want full immersion. So that's where I'm at right now. Oh my God, this was a long lesson. I'm sorry. Sorry, not sorry. So I have to get these in while I'm in the passenger seat. So we're taking my time, and we're already seeing the leaves. This is what we've been wanting with this road trip. I'll end with a little. This is just an interstate through north. We're going more north through New York. We're gonna go to Lake Placid and then cut over to Vermont. So this is where we are now.